Another unsolved Finnish crime, the murder of Kyllikki Saari. The disappearance. Kyllikki Saari was a 17-year-old girl from Iisajoki. She worked in the administrative office of the parish. She was religious and cycled often to the church and prayer meetings. On Sunday morning 17th of May 1953, Kyllikki left Kyllikki Church for Sunday service with her bicycle. The church was 13 kilometers, 8 miles, away from her home. After she got home, she told her parents that she was tired and would go to rest. The parents said this was unusual of her. Kyllikki seemed anxious before she left for the prayer meeting for young people. She had said that it was nice to go there, but she was worried about coming back home alone so late at night. Her friend Maijuili Haidala said later, that Kyllikki had seemed anxious the whole day. Kyllikki was last seen alive that Sunday night at the road between Iisajoki and Kauhajoki. She left for the prayer meeting at 6 p.m. with Maiju. On the trip back home the women decided to leave separate ways at the crossroads section next to the milk processing plant at approximately 10:30 p.m. Kyllikki took the road to north towards her home in the village of Haikila. Kyllikki's last words to her friend were, "I'm sure I'll be fine from here on, as I have been before. Bye for now, Maiju." She had still 6 kilometers, 3.7 miles, left to cycle. A man working for the construction and maintenance of public roads, called Tijaska, Road Jaska, was returning from another prayer meeting and was the last person to see Kyllikki alive approximately 1.5 kilometers, 1 mile, from the crossroads section at 10:40 p.m. Kyllikki Saari never made it to home. She met her killer about 1 kilometer further from the place where she met Tijaska. Her parents were not concerned that she did not come home, because sometimes she stayed overnight at Maiju's place. When a person from Kyllikki's workplace called and asked why she had not come to work for a few days, the parents filed for a missing person report. The search. In Wednesday 20th of May the local police arranged a search party at the spot where Maiju and Kyllikki had gone separate ways. 30 locals took part of the search. They did not find a trace of her or her bike. Soon the whole parish knew about the missing girl. In Thursday 21st, a criminal detective from Vaasa was sent to lead the investigation. The search area was widened to the forest and marsh nearby. Hundreds of people took part in the second search and the case started to get more attention in the press. At this point it was clear that Kyllikki had become a victim of a crime. Tijaska, real name Yakalatin Maki, came forward and told that she had seen a young woman riding a bicycle at 10:40 p.m. The next morning at 7:20 farmer Oskari Forsby and his son Vilho Forsby were transporting milk with horse and carriages from Haikala to the Iisajoki dairy on the same road Kyllikki had last been seen. They reported that they saw footprints, bicycle tracks and car tracks on the road. There was also shattered glass on the road. They said that it looked like there had been a struggle. The place was located about 1.5 kilometers, 1 mile, from the crossroads. The men rushed to the police after they heard of Kyllikki's disappearance, but by that the other traffic had destroyed the evidence. They couldn't even find any trace of the shattered glass. Oddly, it was the same place where Tijaska had seen Kyllikki, but he had not noticed anything suspicious. The cream-colored car. After a week of the disappearance a few people came forward and said that they had seen a cream-colored car driving along the road Kyllikki had used. A 12-year-old witness said that he or she had seen a blond man driving past the houses with a bicycle in his trunk at 11 p.m. the night Kyllikki disappeared. In the car there were 2 men, the other being very large and the other average-sized. The average-sized man had teeth that were somewhat striking. The car was moving very fast and the lights were off even though it had been late night. The same car was reported to be seen for a second time that night. From the village of Uuro a woman named Sylvie Hauskavita was sitting on her porch with her daughter, when car passed them. It was coming from Pantane and going to Iisajoki. In the trunk they saw a bicycle tire. About half an hour later the car returned from Iisajoki. It was an older model. Later 2 young men reported to the investigators that they had been driving their motorbikes from Kauhajoki to Iisajoki that night. At the crossroads in Karhunkangas about 20 kilometers from Iisajoki they had drove past a car parked on the side of the road. After this the area near Karhunkangas was searched thoroughly, but nothing was found. A search for the drivers of the car never led to anything. The bike is found. In 22nd of July 2 people that had been picking berries in Lelulakso saw a bike tire in a marsh. Soon it was discovered that the bike was indeed Kyllikki's. The vents on the tires had been opened, so that the bike would sink in the marsh more easily. The bike was found deep in the forest, hundreds of meters from the road. From this they deduced that the person who tried to hide the bike had known the area well. When the bike was found, water level had been low. When they searched the area before in May, the water had been high, but they had searched the place with a metal detector. This led them to believe that the bike had been placed there later. The bike was in good condition, so it could not have been in the marsh for weeks. The bike was returned to Kyllikki's parents and it was never investigated properly. The bike had some traces of rust. There's no oxygen in a marsh, so rusting would not happen there, and it was not damaged. The police now suspected that Kyllikki had not died in an accident, but rather she had been abducted and killed on purpose. The search in Kortane. At the beginning of fall another surprising turn of events happened. OKV Hanto, the head of police in Kortane, launched an investigation near Kaarankajärvi, after a local farmer Audio reported that he had heard a woman crying for help, 2 men talking and 2 gunshots by the lake at 5 a.m. in the morning after Kyllikki had disappeared. Audio tried to find out what had happened and he saw a car and 2 men he had not seen before on the road. Many other people from the area reported that they too had heard gunshots on that morning. The place was 200 kilometers, 124 miles, from Isajoki, and to get there you'd have to drive past many big towns such as Kauhajoki, Kurikka, Ilmajoki and Seinäjoki, which would have been very bold with an abducted girl and a bike in the trunk. They searched the area and the lake on 12th of September, but they did not find anything. 12th of October they found a bullet case by the north end of the lake, but no one knows what happened there and if it was connected to the events of Kyllikki's disappearance. The body is found. When the investigation was not going anywhere in October, the place where Oskari and Vilhofersby had seen the strange tracks on the road was searched again. In the 10th of October, first day of the search, Valtteri Makala found something on the ground. It was Kyllikki's shoe wrapped in her scarf and a sock belonging to a man. All of it was tied together with a black woolen thread. They found teeth marks on the scarf and suspected that it had been used as a gag. They never found out who the sock belonged to. 11th of October Ilmari Hyatalia noticed a dried pine stick pointing out of a tussock near the place where the shoe was found. When the stick was pulled out, he noticed that the end was sharpened. Right after this he could smell an awful rotten smell. Aino Sipila, the chief of police of Isajoki, was called to the spot, and when they removed some soil and tussocks, they found the body of Kyllikki Saari. Kyllikki's head was wrapped in her own coat and she was naked from the waist down. Her bra was misplaced. Because of decomposing, her right wrist was snapped and her fingers and toes were unrecognizable. Because of this, they could not find out if she had struggled before her death. The grave was about 200 meters away from the road. Professor of Forensic Medicine Antuodila examined the body and said that Kyllikki died after being hit to the head with a blunt object. Her nose and cheekbones were broken. The forensic report suspected that the murder weapon had been a stick or a stone. She was not shot or strangled. There was no evidence of sexual intercourse, but this does not rule out the possibility of sexual crime. They could not find out if she was a virgin when she died because of the decomposition, but at least she was not pregnant. All of the details have never been released to the public. The grave was about 200 meters from the road and 1 kilometer from the place where the bike was found. Previous search parties did not notice the shoe or the pine stick, so it is suspected that they were placed there later. Wood had been planted on the area between 1st and 6th of June, 2 weeks after Kyllikki's disappearance, but nothing suspicious was found then. The investigation revealed that the body had already been decomposing when the stick had pierced her stomach. The grave was very skillfully constructed, which led the investigators think that the suspect had some training as a military engineer. An expert from Helsinki University said that the stick had been cut from a tree earliest at late August and there was no pine trees growing in the area. The other end was sharpened with buikko, Finnish knife, by left-handed person. After the body was found the area was searched carefully again, and in 14th of October they found another shoe. They never found Kyllikki's watch, her purse which was red, or her hymn book. She was put to rest in 25th of October. About 25,000 people took part of the memorial service and it was also recorded by the public broadcasting company. Suspects. The vicar. For a long time the main suspect was Kyllikki's priest, former vicar of Isajoki parish. 3 weeks before the murder he was transferred to Merikarvia. Kyllikki had written a letter to the vicar 3 days before her death, about some religious problems she had. The vicar was interrogated 3 times, but he had an alibi, that was given by his daughter and his maid 6 months after Kyllikki's murder. By their account he was in Merikarvia at the time of the murder. Vicar's movements of the murder night were closely examined. It was found out that he had taken part to the provost's party that evening, spent the night in the vicarage, and next morning at 8 a.m. he had a confirmation class to attend to. He was unaccounted for 20 minutes during that time, but Isajoki is 60 km from Merikarvia and the vicar did not have a driver's license or a car, so he could have not made it there and back in time. Later it was found out that the vicar had had improper relations with multiple women during the war and he was expelled from missionary work in Africa, because of a relationship with a local nurse. It was reported that he had the habit of flirting with young women, and in 1955 he had a relationship with an underage girl in his parish at the time. He was later prosecuted for having sex with a minor and getting engaged while married to another woman. The vicar has denied of knowing Kyllikki that well, which is strange considering he was her confirmation priest and they had exchanged letters. Kyllikki also mentioned the vicar in her diary, but details were not released to the public. One of the vicar's relatives owned a car matching the description of the car connected to the case. Many locals considered him being the culprit. The former police officer, 35-year-old man, who owned a bar in Kyllikki was a lead suspect for a while. By an eyewitness statement, he and another man were seen in a beige or cream-colored car on the road to Kyllikki. The man was a former police officer, who was fired because of bad way of life. He was known for dishonesty and was not liked by the locals. The man had an alibi for the night Kyllikki was killed. A car driver from Isäjoki had seen him with a small business owner from Pori in the city hotel of Kristiinastad at 10 to 12 p.m. The business owner told the police that he had taken the man to his friend's place where they had spent the night. The bar of the former cop was described as being a place of sin where they served illegal alcohol. The police released him, arrested him again and then finally cleared him from all suspicions. The ditch digger, 38-year-old local man, was a strong suspect, but released because there was not enough evidence against him. He worked as a ditch digger, and the locals thought that he was a nice man generally. It was found out that he had committed a sexual-related crime in the 1940s and suffered from PTSD because of the war. Some girls accused him of being a peeping Tom. His mother and his brother however said, that during the night of the murder he had been sleeping after a few days of heavy drinking. During the investigation the man had said to the police that Kyllikki is no longer alive and that she will never be found. Later he stated, that he had been misunderstood. He was sent to psychological evaluation to the mental hospital in Saari, and the police visited him there for interrogation. The doctors cut the interrogation short, because the man started to act disorderly. The man lived about 1 to 2 kilometers away from the murder place. The police suspected him and his brother-in-law for digging the grave. The bill had criminal background. Both men knew the area, because they were working nearby where Kyllikki was found. They also found a shovel in the dig site that was used for digging Kyllikki's grave. The bill moved to Sweden soon after the police have questioned him. The police said later in 2002 that they had strong circumstantial evidence against the men. Both of them had died by 1972 and never formally prosecuted. Runar Holmström. In 1959 there was another murder committed in Heinävesi, which had strong resemblance to Kyllikki's case. The suspect of that case was Runar Holmström, and the police had a theory that he was also guilty of Kyllikki's death, but he was serving time in a prison at that time. The black-bearded man. There was a local, 51-year-old man who was known of his black, thick beard. He was thought of being a little odd by the others. He was said to be very intelligent, but suffered a nervous breakdown during the final exams of his school and changed after that. In August 1952 there was a mention in a report that the man had inappropriately touched a woman that had died in a car crash while visiting a hospital in Isäjoki. Records stated that the man had been castrated at some point. The mentally ill used to be castrated by court order in Finland. The man had visited Kyllikki's workplace often and called Kyllikki his bride. He was also interested in another woman working at a public office. He was reported of hanging around local dance places regularly, watching the dancing couples from the woods. On the night Kyllikki disappeared there was a dance, but the man was not seen there. At 2 a.m. that night, the man had thrown some rocks at the town hall windows and invited a woman living there out with him. When the woman refused, the man had walked away. He had a bag with him that he was carrying on his shoulder. The following morning after Kyllikki's death the man had tried to attack his legal guardian with an iron lump attached to a metal chain. The guardian shot the man to his chest for self-defense. The man survived and was released from hospital 2 weeks later. It was speculated that after killing Kyllikki the man had walked to the town hall carrying the murder weapon in his bag. He returned along the road and buried Kyllikki. The man was questioned by the police, but he gave only smartass replies and was released. The man died in a mental hospital in 1971. Hans Assmann. Inspector Matti Palisaari met Hans Assmann on his deathbed in 1997. Assmann told Palisaari about an old car crash that had to be covered up. He did not mention any names, but strongly hinted to Kyllikki's death. Assmann said that his driver had hit a cycling girl by accident and together they had made it look like a murder. Assmann's wife said that his husband was in the area at the night of the murder because of work. Assmann had a car fitting the description of the cream-colored car that many eyewitnesses reported to have been seen speeding away from the murder place. Assmann's wife also said that when her husband came home from his road trip, he was missing a sock and his shoes were wet. The car was also damaged. A few days later Assmann and his driver left again. with a shovel. Assmann has said that he took part to Kyllikki's funeral with his wife. The Finnish security police has said that Assmann was in Germany during that time. He moved to Finland 1953, died in Sweden 1998.
Never knew about this case before. I'm from Sweden though, but still. I would like to point out that it says 1853, not 1953 as it should, in the beginning of the text.
Who'd have guessed there would be so many creeps and weirdos in a small Finnish town?
Well, that's a first. Someone claiming they staged a murder to cover up an accident.
Hans Assmann was basically the go-to-usual suspect, wasn't he? A shady foreigner.
So many different avenues for this one. The one thing that gets me is the sharpened stick grade marker. Assuming that the person who killed her put it there, why would they have done that? Were they revisiting that spot periodically? Did they want the grave to be found?
The Finnish police seemed obsessed about the teeth.
Till the Scandinavian countries back in the day was a dangerous place.
So, what's your theory on what happened? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe.